The story of Rapunzel, originally created and gathered by the Brothers Grimm and retold by Don Check. This classic tale. We never really know where a story will begin or end. This one starts with a head of lettuce. Long ago, a man and his wife lived in a tiny house without a yard, a garden, or even a pot to which to plant tomatoes. Work was scarce, and their stomachs were often empty. Many days they had only a few crusts of old bread to eat, and that was it. In the garden of their house next to them, there were rows and rows of vegetables. "Oh, what I wouldn't give for a handful of those greens," the wife sighed. She and her husband were expecting their first child. She knew that if she could have just a little of that lettuce, her hunger would be gone, and a healthy baby would soon be cooing under their roof. She begged her husband to climb over the garden wall and bring some back. The man was reluctant to steal, and the owner of the garden was a woman who was said to have strange and fearsome powers. Yet his wife looked pale and weak, and he was worried about her health and that of the baby. So late one night he climbed over the wall. In a few moments he scrambled back with a head of fresh lettuce for his sickly wife. She ate every leaf of it. The next day the man's wife wanted another taste of the neighbor's lettuce. She begged her husband to go again, which he did. The next night she demanded it yet again, and when the man landed on the other side of the wall, their neighbor was waiting. "Aha," she said. "I found the thief who's been stealing my lettuce." "I only wanted some for my wife," the man explained. "She is very hungry and is about to have a baby." "Well, I'll let you have some lettuce," the neighbor said, "but you've got to promise me something in return." "Anything," the man said, "anything." It's wise to be careful of promises like this, because they may be more than you can keep. "Your wife may have as much lettuce as she would like," said the old woman. "But if I give you the lettuce, you must give your baby to me in return." The man was shocked. "I couldn't do that," he cried. "Would you rather go to jail for stealing?" the neighbor asked. "How would your wife care for your little baby without you?" So the man agreed. The neighbor would have the couple's firstborn child. The old woman was a mighty witch, and the man was afraid that it would be very dangerous to argue with her. His wife was upset and refused to part with her child. Even though it broke his heart, the man could see no other way. When the woman gave birth to a beautiful little girl, the first person to appear at their door was the witch from next door. "Remember your promise?" she asked. The man and his wife wept, but their tears did not soften the cruel witch. She took the baby with her deep into the woods, where no one would ever find her. In the middle of the darkest part of the forest, there is a place without paths or clearings that is lost to everyone. There the witch had a secret tower without a door, and only one window high up at its top. That is where she took the baby. "I'll call you Rapunzel," she said. "That's the old name for the lettuce that your mother loves so much. I'll be your mother now, and you'll be the daughter I never had. I'll keep you safe in the forest." So Rapunzel grew up in the tower without any company except for the witch. The witch provided for all of Rapunzel's needs, and the tower was always full of delicious food and pretty clothes. The old woman also brought sacks of wool to the tower and taught Rapunzel how to spin yarn and to weave the loveliest of tapestries. Rapunzel's hair had never been cut, and its fine golden strands grew so long she could have woven them into her designs. While Rapunzel worked and passed her days in the tower, she sang to herself. She had such a sweet voice that all of the birds of the forest came to listen. Years went by this way, and Rapunzel became a young woman. Her beautiful voice was matched by her beautiful nature. She was kind and gentle, calm and patient. Every day she combed and braided her long golden hair as she sang to herself. The witch was often gone all day, but in the evening she would arrive at the bottom of the tower and call up, "Rapunzel, my dear so fair, send down the ladder of your hair." Rapunzel would send the coils of her braid tumbling down the window and down to the ground. The witch would climb up Rapunzel's braid, bringing with her a basket of food for their supper and for the next day. It might have gone on like this forever, But one day a prince found himself wandering through the forest. He was hungry and thirsty, lost and tired. It was late afternoon, and in the stillness of the woods, the prince could hear someone singing. He followed the beautiful sound of the voice to a small clearing in the deep forest. In the middle of the clearing he saw a tower. The prince stayed among the shadows of the trees until he could see that it was safe to approach the tower and its singer. One never knows about these things, he thought, especially in the woods. It was a good thing he waited, because a woman carrying a basket came from the other side of the clearing. She set the basket down and called out, "Rapunzel, my dear, so fair, send down the ladder of your hair." And like magic, a cascade of beautiful golden hair spilled out of the window at the top of the tower. The woman climbed up and pulled the hair back through the window. The prince was astonished. He waited through the night to find out more. At dawn, the woman climbed back down the golden braid and disappeared into the forest. By now, the prince was so hungry that he was willing to take his chances with whoever lived in the tower, and so he called up, "Rapunzel, my dear, so fair, send down the ladder of your hair." The hair spilled down the wall, and the prince climbed up and through the window at the top of the tower. When the two young people saw each other, they fell instantly and completely in love. Rapunzel sang to the prince, shared food from her basket, and listened to stories of his kingdom and the wide world beyond that. They were both enthralled, and the hours quickly passed. The prince descended from the tower before the witch appeared, and he waited below in the forest until she left in the morning. Then he climbed back up the braid to Rapunzel. The daily journal up and down Rapunzel's silken hair went on for weeks, and through it all Rapunzel and the prince never grew tired of each other's company. The prince wanted to take Rapunzel away with him, to be his princess and live at the palace. "My mother will never let me leave," Rapunzel replied sadly. But then she had an idea. "Each time you visit me, bring me a piece of rope. I will hide it, and I will make a ladder, and we will escape together." One morning, as Rapunzel combed out the witch's hair, she sighed. Her thoughts drifted to the prince, and she accidentally said out loud what she had always kept secret. "Oh, I wish you told me stories like the prince does." "So someone has been visiting you?" The witch was furious, and she shook her finger at Rapunzel. "How could you have betrayed me when I kept you safe from the world?" Now the witch was suspicious. Could Rapunzel be hiding the prince somewhere, she thought. Enraged, she searched every inch of the tower and discovered the rope ladder, and she knew that Rapunzel was planning to escape. The witch picked up a pair of scissors, and with their sharp blades she cut off the young woman's hair. Then, with a few magic words, she whisked Rapunzel from the tower and brought her in an instant to a little hut in the middle of the forlorn and empty place, far, far away from the forest. There the witch left Rapunzel with the words, "See if your prince will ever find you now." The prince returned to the tower, and when the witch returned to the tower, and when the prince called out for Rapunzel to let down her hair, the witch answered with the braid of Rapunzel's hair that she had kept. When she climbed into the tower, the prince was shocked to see that it was the witch and not Rapunzel who was waiting for him. He backed away from the old woman and stumbled out of the tower window. He fell headlong into a patch of thorn bushes beneath the tower. They broke his fall, but he was greatly wounded by their barbs. Lost and without sight, the prince wandered for years, through ice and snow, over deserts and mountains. He dragged himself along, always hoping to find Rapunzel again. One day he fell into a deep sleep on the hard ground of a lonely valley. He awoke to the sound of singing, and the beautiful voice he heard reminded him of Rapunzel. Could it be she, he wondered, or am I still dreaming? He found the words and the hope to call out, "Rapunzel, my dear, so fair, send down the ladder of your hair." The singing stopped. Someone was weeping with joy over him, her tears falling on his blinded eyes. Like the wind whisks away the clouds, the blindness suddenly vanished. The prince could sing again, and he saw that the healing tears came from Rapunzel. "I thought you must be dead," Rapunzel said. "I thought I was, until this morning when I heard your song," the prince replied. The pair shared a warm embrace and reveled in their good fortune of being reunited. Soon they left that desolate valley to return to the prince's land. The Rapunzel and the prince returned to the kingdom. They were surprised to learn the rumors the witch was spreading. She boasted far and wide about how she had dealt with an unruly daughter and an unmeddling prince. It wasn't long before Rapunzel's real mother and father heard the witch's tale too. She told everyone what had really happened to their daughter. News of Rapunzel's parents soon reached her, and the prince, who invited them to the visit to the palace. The moment she saw them, Rapunzel knew in her heart that they were indeed her real parents. When Rapunzel and her prince were married, Rapunzel's parents came to the wedding, and they stayed on after the last bite of cake was eaten to live with the jubilant couple. And the witch? She packed up her garden and her tower, and she disappeared. She didn't hear the bells ringing out to celebrate the marriage of Rapunzel and the prince. After so many hardships, the two lived a long and happy life together, full of song, sweet children, and salad. The end. The most famous version of Rapunzel appeared in 1812 in the now famous collections from the Brothers Grimm called The Household Tales. But the Grimm book, the story they published on a basic plot, has appeared hundreds of years earlier. Perhaps the best-known relative of the Rapunzel story is called Petronella, which made its debut in a collection of Italian folk tales. So it sounds like perhaps the Brothers Grimm listened to stories on their travels, and they took these stories and made them their own. And now what we do is we listen to stories like these, and we make them our own, just like Disney did when they did the Rapunzel movie, which happens to be Mrs. Smith's favorite. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed.